You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld here. My guest today, Bethany Brown, the head of service design at Frog North America. Bethany, welcome to the Rosenfeld Review.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to have you here. You are speaking at Advancing Service Design 2025, which is coming up November 19th and 20th. It's a virtual conference. And you have this really interesting intersection of things that you are exploring in your talk and in your work. Obviously service design, but also operations, which we're very interested in. We do the Design Operations Conference. In fact, I interviewed Jose Coronado not long ago, who's been coming at the intersection of operations and service design from a completely different direction. He's an ops guy, but I think there's more and more interplay between those areas. But you have a third area that you're linking up with the other two, and that is AI. This kind of blows my mind, these intersections. So we're going to get into that intersection, but before we do so, well, how did you get here? You're in this pretty, high-profile role at Frog, I'm interested to know how you got to what your career arc is, but along the way, how did you pick up these interests that go beyond service design?
Thank you. Yeah, happy to share a little bit about the journey. My journey began over in the UK. I actually went to Edinburgh Napier in Scotland and grew up in the UK mostly. And then I moved to London and I was at EPAM Systems, one of the many design agencies that got acquired to large shops. And I started sort of through the Great Fridays acquisition. So I started as a service designer there, moved over to Engine service design. And that's really where a lot of my sort of early passion of service design began. Just seeing the wide impact that service design can have across the globe, and was out in Dubai with them as well. Continued on from there out to move to San Francisco and finding my way over to IDN that got also acquired into Capgemini, all the acquisitions, and then of course Frog, and that marriage came to be, and then that's how I found my way over to Frog, and where service design also became a bigger role at Frog as well. So that's been really fun to see. My roots in design come from industrial design. So I felt like this full circle moment came to be when service design and Frog came together. So,
So, okay, but this industrial design background, but at some point you mentioned that you learned about service design and there was probably some sort of aha moment. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. So I graduated at Edinburgh Napier in industrial design. And a lot of the training in industrial design is not just how to make a CAD model and mass produce a piece of anything, but it's really around design, right? So it's how do you solve the human pain point? How do you solve the human need? How do you do research around it? And what is the full picture? So let's not just design the bike, or let's not just design the chair. Let's think about everything around that. And I got really excited about everything around it. And almost more so than the tooling needed necessarily to design the one thing. And when all the sort of job roles initially at the time were really sort of transitioning sketching into CAD modeling. And so all the jobs were make the CAD model. And I wanted to do the designing, the thinking, the full picture view. And so within that process, quickly met people doing that really within service design. And service design is this holistic thinking process. A lot of the leaders I knew at the time as well, like founders of Engine, also came from industrial design. So I found a lot of people making that same jump, that same leap, and so that path was already paved, and it was clear it was a good route for me and how I like to think. So that was the jump.
Did you find that your training in industrial design gave you the vocabulary you needed, or to move into service design, or did you find there was actually maybe that it created some friction? You had to
That's a good
relearn how
question.
to talk about design, maybe?
Yeah, I think it gave me a lot of the language and the kind of formal design thinking, the design language, of course. But I think there's the part of the trade-off you make. You're no longer in the workshop and exploring materials to the same degree. You're not considering the making of a 3D piece and what materials should it be in ceramics or should it be made out of wood, and how would we vacuum mold this or any, so you kind of have to enjoy that in another way. So that portion of the craft was something that was definitely a trade-off to be made. But
We
yeah.
interviewed Shrey Dewan, who you know is one of the curators of the conference, and she also has that industrial design
Mm,
background. And we were talking a little bit about the that transition between industrial design and service design, where you started out, it sounds like,
yeah.
with a certain immediacy in terms of
Mm,
what you were creating and for whom. Like
yeah.
you could actually watch people interact with a product that came out
Sure.
of an industrial design. Like you have to.
Yeah.
Research, valuation, testing are very,
Hmm.
very critical there. Was
Hmm.
it, um, did it feel really different when you were not, when you transitioned away from these products with immediacy to broad services that are really panned way back from individual products?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I feel like I've been in service design much longer than I have. I feel very far away from the industrial design world. I mean, apart from being next to them at Frog, but it is very different. You're panning. The zoom out level layer is way further out. But again, I think this it satisfies the same itch and that desire to want to help more people on the outskirts. And what about them? And what about the other vendors? And what about the other personas? Is what we're going to change in this moment going to impact the domino effect of everyone involved? And I think you still ask that question, at least in my education, still ask that question around the people and who's involved around the product and the industrial piece here. But I guess the zoom out level of that impact isn't as vast, or it didn't feel as vast as what service design can feel like. Yeah, I
Did,
don't know if that answers the question.
it does, but I want to I just love this transition that you went through. And I'm wondering if, I mean, I've never studied industrial design, but I've seen industrial design settings, and it's been
Hmm.
very interesting to me to note the preponderance of different kinds of design material. And you
Mm-hmm.
really get intimate with those design materials. What
Yeah.
about the design materials that you work with now?
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah. All the materials. The materials feel more like frameworks, and also service design is so much more about the process, and the value of it is I think a lot of decision making that happens in the process of service design, like ambiguous decisions that
Hmm.
you didn't know even needed to be made. And so it's really cool that you get to use a lot of design thinking and design process to kind of drive to highly strategic decisions to be made. But I think, yeah, the material you get close to is what is the right framework to have this conversation to break down the complexity so that the decisions we need to make can be easier and drive to that next stage of design effectively, to know what is the right thing to be created, which, yeah.
So, You mentioned ambiguity in terms of the decisions or even the questions. Can you give us some examples, maybe from work you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So something I'll talk about more in the conference around AI and how we approached it in this one. There's many AI projects that will happen, but this one was specific around a company that wanted to, like, the AI hype is real and it's coming and it's already come and we're all here. And how do we know that we're losing money, and we know that there's this thing that exists in the world that should speed things up and make things really efficient, but we don't know how to go from A to B. And so our teams that have worked at helping, obviously service design's always worked with disruptive technology, and we've worked with brand new monitoring devices that exist in the market, and what should we monitor and how much can we monitor, what's appropriate to monitor. So AI is not the only new sort of technology we've come across. And so we think about it in a similar way of like, okay, we hear you, AI is great. It has its benefits, but let's start with what's happening. Where is the financial part getting stuck, and where are things actually inefficient? And let's just start with the people. And so doing what service design does best, looking holistically at the full picture, looking at the areas of the business where maybe that financial loss is most extreme, and looking at all the hard, amazing work that the humans are doing on the front line, and looking at where they're not being enabled to. Most people on the front line are doing their best and trying really hard to deliver an amazing experience. And no one knows that experience better than the people doing their best to serve their customers. So analyzing that, understanding that, and where the gap is falling between the cracks. And of course, what we find is a ton of manual work and a lot of copy pasting happening. And yes, AI is impactful here, but so are other systems that aren't necessarily AI, but have existed for a long time, that are much easier than manually typing something yourself. And so, that's kind of the beginning role of service design in an ambiguous space of AI. And the beauty of service design too is it doesn't live alone, and it never works by itself. It's always in partnership. And so the partners, of course, are your technologists and your strategists, cost sizing, whatever concepts we all articulate in the end to drive this better change and things. So,
well, I think we're starting to kind of nibble at the edges of some of the things you're going to get into in your talk about operations, about AI. And I promised we would do that in the second part of this interview. Well, we're about there. So this is
great.
A great time to take a quick break. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We're talking with Bethany Brown of Frog. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics, from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld here. I'm enjoying very much this conversation with Bethany Brown from Frog North America, head of service design and speaker at next month's Advancing Service Design Conference, taking place November 19th and 20th virtually. So, Bethany, we were going to talk a little bit about what you're going to be talking about. Your talk is titled Rewiring Operations with Service Design and AI. I mean, that is like not only just a great intersection of things, three things, but man, that is SEO friendly. Well done. So, we've talked about service design, and you started to mention operations and AI. How do these things fit together?
Yeah, so I think what I was talking a bit about before is like service design never works alone, and they always work in partnership. And I think that was the key to success here is the right team and the right people kind of focusing on zooming into the right problems to solve for. And so that's kind of that. I think that was really the starting point. And I'll, of course, in the talk later on, I'll get into all the weeds as much as I can. But yeah, I think the most sort of important part of service designing anything in an ambiguous space is making it visible and visualizing that complexity. And sometimes complexity is just complex, and you do need to visualize a lot of the detail. And sometimes it's actually quite simple. And so we can kind of visualize that as well together as a team. So yeah, I think that's been key to something as ambiguous as AI, but also as grueling as operations can be. And
well, let me just ask so I'm clear. So are you talking about using AI like something like Midjourney to help visualize the design, or to maybe help like essentially run the operations? Or
very good question, and thank you for clarifying. Yeah, that was vague enough to warrant what are we talking about visualizing here. What I'm talking about in this specific case is when interviewing the frontline, when talking to staff about what is happening when and where, making sure we actually visualize that complexity. So we're not talking AI yet. Back up from AI. What are the people doing where and when, and what is supporting them and what is not, and visualizing that level of what's enabling or not enabling them, and visualizing the mess and the messy context that they're in, so that we pull empathy at the center, and everybody is in alignment of what is actually not working, and where handoffs are not happening, and where errors are therefore then existing in the system, and those errors are what's costing, and it's not that. And so being able to then look at where do we bring in AI to solve for these genuinely very difficult problems, to help speed it up or catch the errors, or help with resourcing something. There's so much in an operational process that could be deeply improved, and I think AI applied there can be really impactful to the humans. And I think AI screaming at us from LinkedIn or all sorts of social media just sounds terrifying. For it's all sorts of impact it can have on the world, good and bad, but it can also be really powerful and it can also be really efficient when properly when the problem and the people are properly studied.
So would it be okay? So I think I'm catching up,
Yeah, help me
but I
drive
think
more value.
I think if I hear you properly, you're saying you're starting in a situation that is crying for a service design perspective to help
Hmm.
map and
Hmm.
understand the various components and
Exactly.
players and
Hmm.
systems that are operating in an environment that may be a bit ambiguous, a bit messy, what isn't,
Hmm.
right? Then it sounds like you're looking to operations as a way to kind of really test all the various places where the service might be falling apart, where it might not be connecting in the ways it needs to, like there may be breakdowns in whether it's communications
Hmm.
or the flow of money or energy. I mean,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of places
Yeah.
that operations engineers I know are certainly really
Hmm.
astute at analyzing a system. Is that the kind of operations that you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
The,
then once you've done that, you've taken that operational path, then you're using AI to basically fix some of those failure points.
yeah. And so AI for me in this piece of work comes in more towards the obviously we have the lens, we know the ask. They want to see where AI can improve and drive change. AI for so then part of the ask is not only looking at the humans, the process, but also what are we doing with AI already? What teams are set up to support AI initiatives moving forward? And what exists? What features? What level of change do they sit at? And so sizing that and leveraging our sort of strategic team members to look at the cost of that, the business cases that exist, why they haven't been passed through the business, why they do exist. So a bit of study on that whole world and then bringing both worlds together saying okay now we know what you're doing now we know how we see AI internally its maturity and where it's headed and now we know what the problems are that are being faced in some of the most sort of financially vulnerable parts of the business and it's in that space and bringing those two sort of entities together and the right people, which is really key. And
Mm-hmm.
the part that service design is does all the time is bringing the people together. And so bringing the people together in that in the room and in the space to then okay, now we all see it, right? We're all aligned. And then we move from that level of alignment through into generating a variety of different ideas. And when, say, our analysis of the current AI ideas are like, oh, this is actually quite like feature level wise rather than like transformational change that we want to get to, then we can kind of do that coaching throughout altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And we all start to see from the lens of change that we need to create. And then it's from there that we cost size the concepts that come out. So then it's okay, what is this thing that we now are saying could drive all this change to all the operational challenges we're seeing? What actually would the ROI be for the business? And so we then zoom in a little bit more on that front, and then we size all of that to then properly prioritize what should get launched. And then before you launch it, something I'll get into more in our talk as well is like bringing the right people together to be accountable to that moving forward. So it's a lot of zoom out, zoom in, and yeah, to get to the
It's pretty
accountable
impressive
design.
and it's big. So
Hmm.
can you, without divulging too much, can you
Yeah.
give us a sense of
Hmm.
the service we're talking about here? At what level are we
Yeah.
talking? Are you re-engineering economies or a
Oh
little bit
gosh,
more
no.
realistic than that?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's a good question to ask. Um, yeah, so I definitely want to articulate some good examples of this and metaphors to help us understand it a little more without divulging too much. Um, but yeah, a lot of this is around making sure we get the right people to certain places in order to help solve some issues. So it might be around like troubleshooting, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And so how do you catch the errors and how do you properly assign the right people to address those errors? And and there's a lot of operational parts to that puzzle that need to come together to resolve some of that. So troubleshooting is a big part of the change that we tapped into a little bit. So call centers
Mm.
being a part of that as well, and and then the time it takes to allocate the right resource as well. So resource allocation and the amount of steps that it went from and to in order to get to make that the allocation kind of more seamless as well, were some of the solutions that drove a lot of in the end financial impact on the business.
So pretty large, pretty ambitious, pretty complex. And I'm really impressed that you're harnessing three discrete areas and putting
Hmm.
them together in ways because no one of them on their own solves the problem.
No, 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 definitely not. Yeah.
One last question about this work that you're
Hmm.
doing. We've talked about operations, and I want to make sure I'm clear what you mean by operations. Certainly, a lot of people in my world think about operations through the lens of design operations, but that's just a narrow remit for thinking about operations. And I'm asking partly because I'm really interested in knowing when not just
Hmm.
what kind of operations you mean, but like what you're taking in terms of is it a flavor of operations that gives you certain tools or certain frameworks or certain nomenclature.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. In and perhaps I'm coining it wrong, but in this process, obviously service is looking at the end to end like service
Mm-hmm.
experience, and it touches so close to operations. So we're essentially not only thinking about the service that's being delivered, but the operations that support that service end to end. So, I guess in this regard, I think about it as what enables the experience and what's connecting everything together, and where is it not actually operating effectively. So, yeah, I think that's my interpretation of it in this
So
respect.
operations more as process in the setting you're studying rather than
Yeah.
as a discipline of sorts that can
Yeah.
be brought
No,
to
I'm not
bear.
I'm not touching on it too much as a discipline of sorts for sure.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, more just the processes.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. It's
Yeah.
complicated stuff. It's impressive. I can't wait to hear your talk at Advancing Service Design. And yeah, it's still sinking in for me, Bethany. I'm so impressed. I love the intersections. I'll relate a quick story to you. You and I were
Yeah.
talking about kids before the podcast started, and I
Hmm.
told you that my one of my kids is graduating college, and
Hmm.
when she
Hmm.
started, I said, "What do you want to study?" Oh, I think either psychology or marine biology. And I said, the intersections are where it's at. So how
Yeah.
about marine psychology? I
Ooh.
think that's well. She didn't end up doing that. She ended up
Oh.
studying education. But those are those are the areas that are so interesting. So I commend you for looking at these intersections, and I know you're going to find more interesting stuff and more fruitful
Mhm.
stuff the more you dig into it. Um,
Yeah.
but before we wrap, uh, I think you know that we have a tradition on this podcast where
Hmm.
you have to bring a gift for our listeners. What'd you bring us?
Um, a gift for our listeners. In thinking about this, um, my brain goes back to like the biggest gift to me earlier in my career, and I think there's so many we can all think about all the unsung heroes in our life, and for me it was my college tutor at Edinburgh Napier, Richard Firth. He was so inspiring, and his way of talking about design was the opposite of any doomsday sort of perspective. He always talked about it in regards to how it's this ever evolving discipline, and how you can reinvent yourself every 6 months, and no, there's not only one type of job you can get, and that no, there's not only like 2% of you that are going to end up doing this. Like, you can all do it. And he just always inspired us, and yeah, he's the gift.
Well, that's a great gift. I think we all have a lot of educators in our lives that we don't always remember. It's a good reminder to think back, and they are the heroes of civilization. Let's acknowledge them. And I'm sure Richard Firth is very proud of what you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Bethany, it's great talking with you. I'm looking forward to your talk at Advancing Service Design in November. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the latest Rosenfeld review. Really appreciate it. Before you go, I want to remind you that there's something you're going to want to check out if you haven't already. It is called the Rosenverse. Wonder how we came up with that name. It is your hub for all things UX and product design. It's a subscription platform with both free and premium options that has been trained and built on all the goodness that we've been putting out at Rosenfeld Media for years and years. So, what does that mean? It's a couple of Rosenverse live sessions every week that you can attend. It is hundreds of those recordings and hundreds of recordings from all of our conferences going back 10 years. And you may know that we do 4 conferences a year. It's also got this great chat bot called the Rosenbot that's trained on all of that, plus our 65 and growing collection of the best books out there on user experience. It's all there. There's some great discounts as well on books and workshops and our conference tickets. Check it all out. It's all there for you. It is waiting. It's there right now. And even if you have a free tier subscription, you're going to get incredible value from the Rosenverse and the Rosenbot. Go to rosenverse.rosenfeldmedia.com. Start it today.